most people need to focus on what really matters, and that is sharing, being vulnerable, sharing their insights about the industry, sharing their experiences, their clients' experiences.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Justin. Justin, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Whoop, whoop.
So
Thanks for having me, Michelle. Great to be here.
My pleasure. So give us a 5,000-foot view of who you are and what you love to do.
That's a great question. Who am I and what do I love to do? Well, I'm a multi-passionate guy. So I come from a background of both being an edutainer, coming from a background of entertainment with hip-hop music. Before that, skateboarding. So I'm pretty much a Generation X poster kid. Kind of street culture is my thing. So skateboarding in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Hip-hop from 1987 through to now. In fact, last weekend at the age of 52, I won another rap battle. So
no way, good for you. How
I'm
fun
a
is
pretty
that?
out there dude. Done a lot of firsts in the world. Started the first international rap battles in the world. Played along a lot of big stages. And from a business side point, I've been managing businesses since I was 17 and putting on events and experiences and, designing content, and which has kind of led me to where I am now. And I'm trained in a number of behavioral modalities, and I've been an international sales trainer in multiple countries. So, kind of helping frustrated rock stars go big is both my past and my future. So that's kind of what I do. That's a little bit about who I am. I'm the funky white boy getting it done, and I like to start fires with people, and as I said, help frustrated rock stars go big. That's my thing, and synthesizing people's magic and then creating great things with it, so that people finally sort of seen, understood, seen. Their magic is clear and transparent. I find a lot of people out there are trying to get their message out, trying to stand out, trying to rock their thing, and they really find it hard to articulate why me. And for me, as you can hear, I've done a lot of radical stuff in my background. I'm very good at looking at X Factor, and that's kind of the gist of my life and my business. And what I love to do is to help people that, again, are talented kind of get the rewards that they feel they deserve for everything that they've been done and will continue to do.
I love it. And rockstar is kind of a euphemism for
it is totally.
Not necessarily just the leader of a rock band, and being able to articulate anyone's kind of mojo, if you will, to bringing it to that rockstar status.
Exactly.
What do you think stops people from seeing their gift, their thing?
Oh, well, just what you said. Actually, what you just said was a clue to what the block is. That there's a right thing to be a rock star. Like there's a personality type, there's a way you're doing it. For example, most people don't know, but 95% of billionaires are introverts. They're not extroverts. And yet the perception is that success is someone that's on stage with confidence, who articulates himself well, and I wish I was like them. I go, well, maybe. And so that's kind of the problem. A great example is I wrote this post yesterday about being bravely original. And an old client of mine jumps on and goes, oh, I kind of struggle with this. And she was being very honest and vulnerable. And I said, that's it. That's bravely original, because most people are imitating. They're modeling and imitating. That's not original. That doesn't help you feel aligned, and it certainly doesn't show your magic source. So it's difficult for me to connect. But when you are being vulnerable, you're at your strongest. Again, as I said, I'm trained in a number of behavioral modalities, and this is the thing about all relationships, is that when you fear exposing yourself, that's when you're vulnerable. But when you expose yourself, you're actually at your strongest, because you go, well, what can you do now? This is who I am. love me or don't love me. And it's exactly the same in business. Now, what happens is that people go, well, there's a fear attached to that. I'm going to be judged. But that's an unjustifiable fear, because it doesn't matter whether you think you're good or not. Humans are judgment machines. You'll always be judged. So the idea that if I stand out, I'll be judged. No, you'll be judged even if you don't stand out. So you may as well stand out and get some attention and get some sort of meritorious result out of it and have your say, because your people are waiting for you to show up. And but in order for you to really connect, you do have to be brave. You do have to be bold. And I find that one of the biggest blocks that I come across, and again, this is kind of, I don't really talk about gender. I talk more about masculine and feminine energy. If you have a lot of feminine energy, I find, well, to talk about most of my female clients are extremely smart, really well educated, really well prepared, but they sometimes struggle with the idea, again, of the judgment of taking action. If I take action, what will, how will I be perceived? And I know that their biggest frustration is they see these men out there, for example, that perhaps aren't as well educated, aren't as well prepared, and yet they're taking action all the time and making a horrible mess, and yet they're getting more notoriety and more outcomes, and it's very frustrating. So on one side, you need a little bit more polish and finesse and depth and understanding, which I think, women are inherently, I've discovered in my experience at least, that a lot of women are sort of seem more aligned with that. And on the other hand, you've got this kind of masculine side of bravado and woohoo, gung ho, and let's go get it. And if you can find some sort of happy medium with that, the world is yours. And that's kind of my job, is to kind of make sure people kind of don't stop buying into the idea that, for example, that the feminine way is the right way or the masculine way is the right way. It's like, no, we're all a balance. How do we keep that balance? Honor yourself and still show up and blow up, because people want your magic.
Nice. I love that. And once upon a time, and I think it's an outdated way of thinking, that people used to say you can either have fame or fortune, you can't have both. And I think in today's world, you kind of have to step up to the platitude that you're going to have both. Is that true in your experience, or where do you think that lies now?
I wouldn't say the data supports that, actually. I wouldn't say that. If you actually look at numbers with a lot of these kind of like success myths that are out there, there's no numbers to support these ideas. When you say, oh, hey, you've got to get this many fans and then you'll get this many outcomes. So can you prove that? Can you show me 5 people that have done that? Nobody can show you that. So you go, well, hold on. If nobody can show me that, then why is it that everyone believes that? I go, because you've been sold on the idea, A, that you're not enough. B, if you were just like me, you would be enough. And so therein lies the problem. Because the reality is the quality of your conversations determines the quality of your outcomes. That's it. It's no more complex than that. If you're having a lot of conversations and you're asking a lot of good questions, then they're going to go somewhere constructive. It's that simple. So if you're constantly putting up quotes by Brene Brown and Mahatma Gandhi and whatever else, and you wonder why you're not getting any leads, but you post like every day, well, it's because I don't even know who you are. I have no idea who you are. When you say, hey, I'm a coach, I go, yeah, like everyone else. Like, who cares? Nobody cares. Whereas when you step into conversations about your own growth, your clients' growth, development, your insights and all that good stuff, then I can see your transformative magic. And this is the problem. I think a lot of people have been conditioned to believe that quantity equals quality, and it certainly doesn't. But in saying that, my experience of thought leadership is the real gift to success is consistency. If you are inconsistent, everything else will be inconsistent. And I'll be honest with you, that's been my problem with my personality. I'm multi-skilled, multi-talent. I'm what's called a scanner, constantly looking for the next creative project to fulfill my potential. So I work best in projects, not necessarily in like singular long conversations or careers. And I'm finding that a lot of people that are now the Great Resignation and all that sort of stuff, they're going, yeah, I don't actually want to be just called an accountant or just called a sales trainer or just called a this, because there's so much more to me than this. So the whole conversation is changing. It's not necessarily very easy to navigate because, quite honestly, a lot of the things we're being taught are actually outdated. But what I have discovered is that the people that are brave and consistent are winning. I could list many, but to give one that everybody kind of knows, like Gary Vaynerchuk. He came out with opinions. He came out with stuff that people would debate. What's another one that's sort of local in America? Molly Mahoney, if you haven't come across her, she's a really fun sort of, comes from a theatrical background. She's very consistent. She's very up, and her business is called The Prepared Performer. Now, if you look at her, again, she's very much a truth teller, very consistent, high energy, but she's totally real. Another a colleague of mine, Shamika Tankerson, she's just made the Fortune 500 as a coach, which is a big deal. She's had like 1,800% growth. She's an African-American woman who just kicks ass. And I just love her posts. I love what she's saying. She's just like, really gutsy and brave and heartfelt stuff, but it's based in business acumen. And so she's kind of really showing her heart and really showing her acumen, and she's really going for it. And she's positioning herself as a premium position, clearly, to be reaching Fortune 500. And this is in a very short period of time. So those are the examples that I've got, and I can come up with plenty more. But that's what I'm sort of seeing, is that, and I learned this from another really sort of high-end coach in California, which is, you really need to be clear if you want to stand out in a marketplace about what you stand for and what you stand against. Because people don't want you to just be nice. Like, I come from the recording, I was a musician, and I can tell you that if you're trying to sell music, you don't want people to think your music's nice, because they're not going to buy it. They're not going to listen to it. You want people to love it or hate it. And that's the cornerstone of sales. You're trying to get people to have an emotional response to what you're doing. And that is a thing that I think a lot of people neglect. They keep trying to pitch and sell instead of having a really emotionally resonant conversation that really connects with someone's vision for what's possible.
So in that connection and building that connection, I know when you say people are afraid of being judged, I think they're also afraid of being, well, judged negatively. But do I need to be clear about what it is that I'm saying, or do I need to be controversial and kind of piss people off? Because you can do one without the other, but if you can do both, I think you're ahead. But what are you take on that?
I think that's again an illusory idea. That's an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's an old idea that we used to hear. Better to get attention. Who cares whether you've struck a negative chord? What is it? All attention is good attention. All that sort of real old
PR
sort
is
of
good
mindset.
PR. Until Yoast
and
Yelp
the
came
reality
along.
is that we know that's not true, because negative PR can crush a business in a day. And you've only got to go to your Google afterwards if you've had negative feedback, and to see if anyone Googles me, all they're going to see is this.
Yep.
So that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's no point worrying about that. You have no control over that. The idea that you have control over that, again, is an illusion. For example, if I come up here and I have an opinion again about the women I've worked with or the men that I've worked with, somebody watching this interview will go, rubbish. That's not true. Now, I'm not denying their opinion. Their opinion is their opinion based on their experience. I can't control that. I'm only sharing my truth. But what I know is that if I share my truth and I show my vulnerability and I show who I truly am, and I also give you evidence of how I've transformed people, my people will hear the way I'm talking and go, that's exactly what I think. Yeah, I feel the same way. He's got a weird accent, this guy, but I like him, and those are the people that are going to reach out. And I'm cool with that. And again, I suppose I've been very lucky that it's built into me, this kind of being brave, being a skateboarder and all that sort of battle rapper and all this stuff like that. That stuff, you are putting yourself into the firing line. So I'm lucky that I was born with that. But what I've discovered is that, again, fear is not real.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is an idea, because in the body it manifests as the same way. Excitement and fear manifest the same way. So make a better decision. You could be afraid about the response, or you could be excited about the response. The choice is yours. Neither one of these things are really real. So you might as well focus on the one that feels good. And I think that's the problem. People get in their head. As Mel Robbins says in the 5-second rule, it's just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. Don't get in your head and think and process it. Just do it. Just post. You see something, you've got an insight, just do it. Like, it's not wrong. And that's the problem. I think, again, if you're consistently sharing, then you'll connect. And if you're constantly trying to do it right, then you won't be consistent. So actually you end up being wrong, because the results don't show up for you, because you're waiting to the moment until the stars align and everything's right, my haircut's right, and I'm the right weight, and whatever else it is, and there's no such thing. So yeah, it is amazing how so much business success actually comes back to the belief, I am enough.
That's awesome. And I think it's important for people to hear, because oftentimes I have found that when that's somebody's core belief, they think they're the only person in the world that has that belief.
Yep.
Like,
Totally.
everybody else is clearly awesome and they clearly have enough and they're clearly doing it right. Whereas
Yeah.
I think it almost doesn't matter what level somebody's at. They always have that little inkling of doubt. And is this good enough? Is it right? Is it?
I mean, let's have a look at what we're both wearing in this interview. I'm wearing like a long sleeve t-shirt. You're wearing a t-shirt or something to that effect. Now, if this was 10 years ago, even say 15 years ago,
Right.
baby boomers would be setting the standard for what you should wear. You'd probably be wearing a collared shirt, a jacket, and so would I, because otherwise I wouldn't be a real business person, right?
Yeah.
But now it's our generation's time to kind of go, oh, chill out. I can be comfortable and make cash and come across as professional. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And so that goes to show that those things were just ideas, and they will continue to shift. It's not to say I don't like getting dressed up every once in a while and getting snazzy, but still, I find that stuff, interesting and also annoying, because we spend so much time thinking about that stuff. It's like, it's not even important. I mean, if you do show up and you're completely unkempt and you're looking like a hot mess, well, okay, it's going to be pretty hard to kind of focus on probably what you're saying. But largely, I think, again, most people need to focus on what really matters, and that is sharing, being vulnerable, sharing their insights about the industry, sharing their experiences, their clients' experiences, and coming from a place of generosity. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's quite difficult to do when, for example, business results are not going your way. When you're in your own life, when you're suffering from some level of scarcity, it's very difficult to not come across as like, hey, I'd really like you to, sign up to my thing and be my friend, and then maybe I can sell you something. That everybody can kind of sense that stuff. But again, my solution for that is always just keep being consistent. Keep being consistent. And I've got to tell you, this is not my natural way of being. My insight, how I came up saw this insight was from 13 years of being in direct response marketing, seeing people that, as far as I was concerned, were nowhere near as talented as me. And I go, they're crushing it and I'm not. Why? And I go, because they're posting every day. They're doing that event every month. They're doing this thing every 6 months, and over and over and over and over. It's not romantic. And I'm not saying you still have to have something that pops, but that's what I've discovered. So if anybody's watching this and they're kind of going, well, I thought this guy was going to talk about some radical skateboarder inside tricks. Sure, we can talk about that. But I find consistency is one of those things that builds trust. And if you go to a marketing agency or someone who's spending a big budget, you'll find out that when they get a brand, they will spend 6 to 9 months just doing brand recognition advertising. Now, why do they do that? So that you trust the brand. So when they do go to pitch you, you go, oh, I trust that brand. On an unconscious level, you've already decided that they're good people. So that's what, a lot of people in our sort of space need to wrap their head around. Is my job is to build trust, and building trust is doing all those things we talked about before.
Nice. Well, and I also like when you mentioned when somebody steps into their own and they start becoming themselves, it's not necessarily that all of a sudden wealth is going to be dumped upon them. There's still going to be difficulties, and there's still, in my experience, people will have a lot of time to be able to go, oh my God, I've done the wrong thing. I've totally screwed this up. I shouldn't be me. I should go back to being that thing in the box that everybody expects me to be. And
Yep.
like, how long do you play with that idea, and how do you help people through that kind of dark tunnel?
Oh, well, I could give you a long answer or a short answer. So I'll give you an exercise that really helps people, because I know anybody watching this is going to go, yeah, if you can just give me something to fix it right now, that'd be great, rather than hearing your long-winded view of it. So there's a great exercise called fear setting, right? So in case people don't understand my accent, FEAR setting, right? So what you do is you've got 3 columns on a piece of paper. On the left-hand side, you put all your greatest fears. And so let's just say you're doing a launch of something and it doesn't work. Yeah. So what's your greatest fear? Well, I'm going to spend X amount on Facebook ads and it doesn't work. Okay. So then what would you do to manage that? And then how would you fix that and get better? So that's 1 column, 2 columns. And what happens is that when you write all those fears down and then you think like that, you realize that none of them are actually as bad as you thought. So emotionally, they might feel like a 9 out of 10, but when you do this exercise, you find, it's 4 out of 10. So this is an exercise from Stoicism, and I personally found it very helpful. But also, what tends to happen is that, like, for example, like you come across a lot of clients that say, well, I've tried this and it didn't work, which is kind of what you were saying, right? I did this thing and it didn't work. When you say you tried it, what do you mean? So again, let's say you use something like advertising, for example, and you go, I tried Facebook ads, it didn't work. Okay, what part of it didn't work? Well, what do you mean? Well, what did you want to have happen? Well, I wanted to get, 50 leads, qualified leads. Okay, and what actually happened? Well, I got like 2. Okay, and then how many people went to the ad? Well, thousands. Then how many people went to the booking page? Well, hundreds. Okay, and out of hundreds, you got 2 bookings. Is that right? Yeah. So it's not Facebook ads, is it? What do you mean? It's the booking page.
Exactly.
Right. And they go, oh. And most, but what you see, what's happening on an unconscious level is my identity is also wrapped up in my fears, and people fight for their limitations. Oh, you don't understand, I'm not a technical person. You don't understand, I'm not really good at that. Oh, you don't understand, I don't really talk on video. Oh, you don't understand, right? So these are all people fighting for their limitations. And if we accept that, then those limitations are real. And what that person is, they'll stay exactly where they are. They'll have exactly the same identity, exactly the same outcomes. And they'll just keep taking courses until the cows come home. And they'll never change their results because they're not actually willing to take responsibility for being the new person they need to be. And that's the scary part. The scary part is what happens if you get 50 leads when you were getting 2? Your whole business changes, your job role changes, your cash flow changes, your responsibility changes, everything changes. And the human mind does not like change. Change is threat. And that is something that a lot of people don't unpack for themselves. They don't see that coming. They kind of go, I want $1 million. Okay, you understand what that means? Do you really know what that means in terms of trickle-down effect to you, your business, your structure, the things that you've got to do, what you've got to manage, or whatever it is? You know, I read a really good book recently that talks about that called Happy Money by Ken Honda. For the people that are watching this, that have been chasing these numbers, thinking, well, I get this number, I'm going to have it all. Go and read that book. Find out what your happy money number is, because it'll actually make your life a lot more enjoyable in terms of what you're doing. And that's something else that I also really stand for is like, you know, we have dreams of these things, and then the vehicle that we use to get to those dreams turns into a jail cell. So that dream turns into a jail cell real quick. But we built the jail cell ourselves. So I question a lot of assumptions. I question a lot of beliefs. I question a lot of like these ideas about what success really is, because it's personal. And again, you know, extroverts want to get out there and experience other humans. Introverts they don't want to do that. They want different types of environments, and your truth is your truth, and design your business and your life around that instead of chasing somebody else's idea. That's what I find to be healthy, helpful, and balanced.
Right. Love that. And I think too, it's hard to understand that without that fear, or should I say with that fear, it's hard to analyze the numbers. But a lot of people don't realize that they're in the midst of fear. That's why they're not analyzing the numbers to be able to look at it and understand kind of how to take their businesses forward. And I mean, of course, they don't know what it's consciously, they don't know what it's like having that goal mark amount of income because they've never had it before. But subconsciously, they have an idea of what it might be like, which is part of the reason why they're not achieving it, is because they're terrified of, you know, the ramifications of that decision. I'm going to have to work harder. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to let go of things. I'm going to have to hire people. I'm going to have to whatever it is.
Yep. And, you know, and again, it's never as bad as you think. Like I said, you know, you don't need a big business to make a lot of money. You do need a couple of people to help you out, but you don't need huge amounts. You know, like, and the other thing is too is that when people say I want to make $1 million, they say, well, okay, what is that? Is that turnover, income, revenue, profit? What are you actually talking about? And inherently, what they really mean is, I want $1 million in my pocket. Okay, so what's your profit margin? And they're not even sure what their profit margin is. And I go, so how are you going to get there? And it's little things like that that people don't sort of realize, you know, and is, you know, for example, when I'm working with a client and they're like, well, I want to grow my business, you know, the first thing I'll say is put your prices up. And I go, well, and then I know immediately, and I do this for 2 reasons, and I'll tell you what they are. First off, it's the easiest way to make more money. Secondly, it's going to tell me what their money beliefs are. Because if they fight me, I go, good. Now I want to find out who you really are. Because they're going to say, oh, my industry, you know, this is da. I go, oh, okay, so you're like everybody else, are you? Well, no. But you just said that you're going to charge like everybody else. So you're like everybody else then, right? Well, no. So are you better than them or are you worse than them? Well, I'm better than them. Well, wouldn't it stand to reason then that you would charge more than them? You know what I mean? And in NLP, they call this a value-based reframe. So what I'm doing is I'm checking in with their values and I'm reframing them so that they can realize you're doing it to yourself. You know, you're you're actually crippling yourself. I got a good example. I worked with a design agency, and they came to me and said, super time poor, like all of our clients want their work done yesterday. And that's the standard in our industry, right? Here's my belief. The standard in our industry, everybody wants work done. Okay. So I said, well, just create a rate card, for people and say, rapid service there's a premium for rapid service, because of course I've got to then, push people back on the line so that you get your work done. Oh, I can't do that. Why can't you do that? Well, because nobody does it. They'll leave. So their fear was that'll be such an affront that they'll leave. I said, but they've told you that's what they want. You didn't force it on them. So all you're saying is as you can appreciate, time is money, and I'm going to have to, and you're asking me to prioritize your time and your results above everybody else's. So there's a small fee for that. And I'm sure if you were in the queue, you'd understand that, wouldn't you? Oh, yeah, okay, all right, fine. So anyway, eventually, after a half an hour conversation, she goes, okay. And she created this great rate card, and she had Godspeed, light speed, and warp speed. It was really funny. And it increased her average sale by 32%,
nice.
Which generated $90,000 and allowed her to remove herself from the business to work on the business, which we all hear from business coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to work on the business, not in the business. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you address the cash flow situation first before you go
have some profit to be able to do that?
Pitch little phrases like that.
Yep.
So it's those sorts of things. I'm really the anti-overwhelm guy. So none of my stuff is about, I fervently disagree with the idea you learn more and you earn more. Rubbish. Where's the proof? I know from speaking to people Tony Robbins, curriculum designer, and Marissa Murgatroyd, and these are big people. These are 7, 8, 9-figure players in our industry, and they all fundamentally admit, we have somewhere between 5 to 8% success rate. So hold on, when you hear that, you go, so that's a 92 to 95% fail rate. Now, and yet we think, but we all want to join the 5%. So what you realize is, this is completely unrealistic. I go, yeah, because when someone teaches you something, it's like going to school and saying, well, I went to school or I went to university. The premise was you go to university, you leave university, and you're set for life. Has that turned out to be the case? No. Especially in, say, for example, North America, or particularly America, where, you've got such high costs, and, you're actually 100 grand, whatever, maybe even more in debt when you start your working career. I mean, the system doesn't really work that way. And that's why this whole entrepreneur, work for yourself, digital virtual world thing is so sexy to people, because they're kind of going, yeah, these paradigms don't work for me anymore. I don't believe in them because the evidence isn't there. But in saying that, again, entrepreneurialism and running your own business is not for the faint of heart. And I definitely think there are a lot of people out there trying it that aren't designed for it. And so it can be a bit, there's definitely some torment with what to do and where to go with that. And I can't say that I haven't been through it myself. I have. But, to put it in short of succinct a way as I can, the highs outweigh the lows.
Mm-hmm. And I think you become designed for it if you weren't designed for it previously. So some of these people that are thinking, oh, okay, fine, I wasn't designed for entrepreneurial, I'll just quit now and go and do something else. Stop. Don't do that. That's not what we're saying. So talk to me about what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody might be having right now, and they're thinking, oh my God, Justin, I need you so badly.
Well, I think a lot of people have insights that they don't know how to articulate in such a way to stand out in the marketplace. There's the great book that I read many years ago called Clicking by a woman called Faith Popcorn. And she's a futurist. She talks about future trends. And CLIck stands for courage, letting go, insight, commitment, and know-how. And I have a program called STAR, where the STAR stands for Standing Out Transformative Accelerated Results. And I design presentations, sales processes, and sales calls, and a sales product. I actually develop their process, like what's your unique process, what's your product, what's your presentation. So I reverse engineer this whole thing so that you uniquely stand out. And so it's quite difficult sometimes for me to articulate to people what that really means, because most people kind of think about things like, oh, I see you do presentations. Well, yes, but I also do products and I do offers. And what I've discovered is that what most people really want, for example, when they engage, they want marketing help. What they actually want is a conversion pathway. And so that's what they want from a business outcome. But personally, they want something that authentically aligns with really who they are, shows their unique power, and feels like it flows, like it's ease. And most of my clients, I do this extremely quickly with them, and they just freak out because they've literally been thinking about this for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's my ability, is synthesizing. And I love doing it because it sets people free. So I find a lot of people are stuck following who's the biggest rock star right now that can show me the key. And the reality is, you're the rock star. You're the rock star. What's your rock star quality? Not their rock star quality. You don't know what sort of personality type they are. Like I see these like A-type people that are like 5% of the population, like, ADD, and I do 500 posts a day. And oh my God, it's just really easy. You just, multi-format all your content and it's just easy. Okay, there's nothing easy about that. That's a lie. That takes a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of strategizing, a lot of acumen. That's not the answer. Again, I think people need to trust in themselves, but they need a guide. And that's really what I am. I just find that is the main thing, because honestly, how-to information is everywhere, right? How to market on Instagram, how to market on TikTok, it's everywhere. You could Google that at any stage and you could find 20 video series you could watch at any time. So you go, okay. So then you've got to ask yourself, if all the information in the world out there was telling me how I can make $1 billion and all the rest of it, why doesn't it happen for everyone? And that's what I help people with, is to kind of say, well, who are you really? And what have you got? And what are you, and as a result of your journey, what's happening with your tribe and who you need to serve? And that again takes a level of bravery. But what I find is that the more you go through that conversation, eventually it just drops in and people go, oh, and I just see their faces change, like their energy changes, it's like, whoa. And they're like, finally I've been seen. I'm doing it. Like, this is what I was looking for. And it's not simple. When I synthesize people's stuff, I make it sound simple, but the pre-process to get there, that takes a lot of work on the client side to kind of really have faith in themselves and me, again, going through these explorations. I had a client, for example, who had a background as a nurse. Now, at first she thought, well, I want to serve mothers. And then she's like, no, actually, what I really want is to empower women to be creatively and financially strong, and as a result, free. And that took quite a while for us to get there, because she couldn't let go of the old identity. And she's not a young woman. And she's like, yeah, because women in my age group, we might be either divorced or a partner's passed away. And it's like, so now what? And I want to be fully expressed, but I want to have, financial security and all the rest of it. So that took a little while. And now, she's featured on national PR. She's hosting summits. She's developing an inn in New Hampshire on like 200 acres and stuff like that. She's meeting all these thought leaders. I've said to her, stop trying to create stuff when you're surrounded by brilliance. Just plug it in. Because she had another business. And so she's gone and got the best of both worlds. She's got this creative kind of way of looking at things, and she's really expressing herself, but she also has the financial stuff taken care of. And oh man, it's been a fun journey. And I tell you, it's just a complete love fest, our calls, because, you know, I'm helping her reveal herself to herself. And then we go and create cool stuff. And then she's like, oh, you know, this is what I've always wanted to do. But it can be very easy getting caught up in your past identities, either as, say, a mother or a past job role or whatever it is, like letting go of those identities and realizing it's now all about me. And, you know, I particularly love supporting women with this because, you know, I see so many talented women that are stuck in this idea that if I look after myself, I'm neglecting something else. And I'm like, what if you could have both, where your family and your relationships grow and develop as well as you grow and develop? And so that brings me a lot of joy to help people with that stuff, because I really, you know, I say I'm an accelerated results coach. Now, that sounds like a bit of a businessy thing, but the reality is that I'm trying to support you to have accelerated results in all elements of your life, because I just don't feel that they're separate.
Nice. Love that. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start their journey with you?
Well, that's very easy. You can go to, I've got a little link. It's societap.com/Justin Cunningham. I can give you that to put in the chat.
It will
or
be in the show
notes for the
sure.
for the program. and on that link, people can get, there's a bundle of free resources that you can get. There's like 5 different things I give you access to. One of the things that I would highly recommend people check out is the business owner quiz, because that kind of again unpacks that unconscious stuff we were talking about, like who am I and what's stopping me. And there's also an opportunity to just jump on a call. So very simple. And so if people want to jump on a call with me, there's a link there as well. And, you know, we can get to know each other and see if we're a good fit, and kind of go from there.
Love it. So I get to ask you now, at what point in life did you know that you were special kind of crazy enough to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, well, I actually did it twice. So I've had my own, you know, I think a lot of us have had our own scar tissue. So the first time I was 31, 30, about 30, that's right. And at that stage, I'd been involved with music for a long time and skateboarding, and I'd been working in retail, and retail sucked. Yeah, I was over it, and I wasn't getting paid much. And I was just called to do these rap battles because I love freestyle rapping, and I was like, I've got to do this thing. So I did an event. I had 300 people in the room. The first event that I did, you know, it went really well, and that was it really. And then after that, I went, well, I'm just going to commit, and I did. I stayed sort of part-time in retail just in case for a little bit, and then eventually I just made the full leap. And so I spent about sort of 6 years doing that. And then the industry shrunk, things shifted in the marketplace, and I had to kind of go back to retail, and that was quite a shock to the system. And then I retrained myself in behavioral modalities, and then I was working for other people. I was a sales trainer for very big businesses, worked for the New Zealand's leading sales process company, and large format retailers, all sorts of stuff, running businesses. But I just never felt that I was getting the reward that I was due for what I was creating. And that led me to go, you know what? I'm driving the ship, therefore I'm going to give it another go. And yeah, that was about, yeah. Well, I mean, I've been coaching for about 13 or 14 years, but to actually kind of completely 100% jump into self-employment again and the entrepreneurial journey was about 11 years ago. So that's what happened. And I think that's pretty common with a lot of people. They either feel like, I'm not being seen, I'm not being rewarded, I'm unfulfilled. And so, you kind of make that leap. And I knew with my skill set that I could create measurable change for people. So I was very confident that given the right context and format, I could make it work. And so I did. And I'm continually trying to find new ways to express all of who I am. And, I consider myself an edutainer as well. And for people that haven't been to one of my events, I do freestyle rapping about what we're talking about and bring all that fun stuff in there, which people don't see coming from a middle-aged white guy with gray in his beard. But, it's fun. And I really do believe that fun is flow, and flow is ease, and ease is excellence, and excellence means you get paid well. So trust and fun, because that's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, the universe's way of telling you, if you find this easy and other people think that it's powerful or worthwhile, then you're being given a sign and you should trust it.
Nice. I love that. Justin, you have been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I know how valuable it is. Any last words for our peeps?
Yeah, have faith in yourself, reach out, let's connect. And I really appreciate people staying through this interview and listening to it. And I really hope you enjoyed it. And I would love to hear what was the one thing that really struck with you, because that's always helpful for me in terms of my own development and how I can support others.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you, Justin, again for being here with us. Peeps, this is
Thanks.
Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and join our Facebook group, Business Ownership Secrets to Scaling, because we love connecting with you and we love helping you grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.